Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. So I want to talk about something that happened yesterday. Somebody messaged me on Twitter and threw a lot of hate my way for being trans. They assumed I was trans based on my name. I'm sorry about all the barking dogs, but we're going to have to deal with it. So they seen my name on Twitter, Bisexual Hillbilly. Now it's pretty self-explanatory. I am bi, and I'm country as hell. I like to cook up some fried fatback. I like biscuits. I like to go play in the mud, catch frogs, flounder. I make homemade moonshine. I can make wine. I still stomp grapes with my feet. I'm pretty country. No, I'm not that racist ass redneck that, toast a rebel flag around and blah, blah, blah. I don't do all that. I'm just a country ass gal, basically. So, bisexual hillbilly, that's my name. So, as you all know, if you've watched my content, I love everyone. The only people I do not want to be associated with is pedophiles, zoophile, and racist people. I don't want no part of that shit. So, someone on Twitter DMs me yesterday and calls me out for being trans and hates on me in the vilest way because they assume I'm transgender. I've never claimed to be trans. Let me tell you how they thought I was trans. They thought because my name said bisexual hillbilly, they thought because they were ignorant as hell, they were uneducated as hell, they didn't know, they thought they knew what bisexual meant, and they thought bisexual meant trans. So when they're sending me all these messages, so I figured I would educate them and send them a screenshot of what transgender means and what being bisexual means so I could educate them, basically. So before I could send the screenshot, they text me that they knew what the F it meant and that I was the ignorant one. And I was like, well, apparently you don't. So let me, send this to you and help you so in the future you don't mix this up and attack people you shouldn't be attacking anyways. And of course they went on a rant about how transgender people were this and that. And I said a lot. Let's get back to this. I sent the article, and this article was by National Center for Transgender Equality. Frequently asked questions about transgender people. And it says, what does it mean to be transgender? Transgender people are people whose gender identity is different from the gender they were thought to be at birth. Trans is often used as a shorthand for transgender. When we're born, a doctor usually says that we're male or female based on what our bodies look like. Most people who were labeled male at birth turn out to actually identify as men, and then most people who were labeled female at birth grow up to be women. But some people's gender identity, their knowledge of who they are is different from what was initially expected when they were born. Most of these people describe themselves as transgender. A transgender woman lives as a woman today but was thought to be male when she was born. A transgender man lives as a man today but was thought to be female when he was born. Some transgender people identify neither as male nor female or as a combination of male and female. There are a variety of terms that people who aren't entirely male or entirely female use to describe their gender identity, like non-binary or genderqueer. And then, of course, it goes on to explain further. Everyone, transgender or not, has a gender identity. Most people never think about what their gender identity is because it matches their sex at birth. Being transgender means different things to different people. And then, it's frequently asked questions, so it's how does someone know they're transgender, and what is the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity. So I sent this whole article, and my Tourette's is acting up. Sorry, I got to calm down a minute. So I sent the article, and this person, goes off and tells me that, again, bisexual means to be trans, and I'm trying to explain that. Then I go back and I explained what bisexuality means, and I sent, another, go on Google and Google bisexual so I could screenshot it and send it to them and help educate them. Bisexual, sexually attracted, not exclusively to people of one particular gender, attracted to both men and women. A person who is sexually attracted, not exclusively to people of one particular gender. Bisexuality is romantic attraction, sexual attraction or sexual behavior toward both males and females, or to more than one sex or gender. Oh, so I send that. Because that's just, I'm trying to find a way for them to understand. And this person blows up and it just goes really south. And I try to educate them, but then I start getting mad. Because I think to myself, who are you to judge me for a name that I use on social media? You could have somebody that calls themselves Purple Hair Sally, but she actually has red hair in her photo. Who are you to call her out for not actually having Red Hair Sally in her name? That's not your place to call them out. If somebody likes to play Resident Evil, but their, account name says Minecraft Michael, who are we to call them out for not having Resident Evil Michael? And then I go back to, the knowledge that I do know, because I have educated myself on the transgender community. I don't know every single term, but what I do know is people attack the transgender community, and so many transgender people die every year because of this hate. You can go on Google and type in, hold on. I'm trying to find the website. Fatal violence against the transgender community. Murders of transgender people in 2020 surpasses the total for last year. 350 transgender people. This was published, oh gosh, I was about to start breaking down crying. Hold on. Sorry. I am not the most organized YouTuber on this platform. You know what I'm saying? So I go back and forth. I have OCD, I have Tourette's, ADHD, and I'm not using that as an excuse, but I do tend to ramble and stutter and get confused and tongue-tied, and I am emotional. I'm so emotional. So, murdered, suffocated, and buried alive. 350 transgender people killed in 2020. 350 transgender people were killed this year in 2020, in a figure that has risen since last year's total of 331. The annual global list is released for Transgender Day of Remembrance, held in November 20 of each year. The list shows that this year the average age of those killed was 31, with the youngest at just 15. While a fifth, 22% of the transgender people murdered were killed inside their own house. The majority of the murders happened in Central and South America, totaling 287. Like last year, the most deaths in a single country happened in Brazil, totaling 43% of global deaths, 152 people. Mexico was next with 57, while the United States sits in this report at 28. However, the Human Rights Campaign, HRC, who compile a separate list for the U.S., have totaled 37 this year so far. The reason for this disparity is due to this report counting Puerto Rico as part of the Central and South America region, while HRC counts those cases as U.S. It's the most violent year since HRC records began, and the Human Rights Organization is calling it an epidemic of violence. But further humbling and critical part of context these figures must be viewed in, it is that this death total is likely to only be the tip of the iceberg. The list is compiled by Transrespect versus Transphobia Worldwide, TVT, a TGEU project by sourcing local and national news stories covering the deaths and murders. The violence and horror of the murders, where transgender people were burned alive, suffocated, and murdered, are cataloged by the project, which also has a full list of all those killed this year. I'm so emotional because this is our family. This is our cousins, our brothers, our sisters, our parents. This is us. This is what is happening to people we love. My cousin, I am not getting into that right now, but I'll just say this: 2 of my cousins were murdered. This is our loved ones, our society, our children, who are being burned alive, buried alive, murdered, raped every year because they're transgender. Why is nobody hardly talking about this? This is an epidemic of violence. That's what it just said. The report is released annually to mark Transgender Day of Remembrance. November the 20th. In 2008, the Trans Murder Monitoring Report has been recording homicides that happen every year between the dates of October the 1st and September the 30th. Since the project began 12 years ago, they have recorded 3,664 deaths. This year, the number of deaths has risen from 2019's 331 to 350. Y'all, that is almost 4,000 people. That is a fucking epidemic. That is almost 4,000 people. Why are we not talking about this? Why are we not? And I know I'm going to be the first to say that for years I didn't hate transgender people, but I didn't realize the violence going on against them either. I didn't know that this was happening. You know, because we see things like 9/11 in the media. We see things like COVID virus in the media, West Nile virus, anthrax, but they don't cover the murders of gay people or transgender people or straight or bi. They don't cover that like they should. I don't understand. This is almost 4,000 people. That is, what is the word? That is huge. That's a fucking epidemic of violence. Being the statistical representation of numbers and percentages, there are people whose lives we value and who we as societies fail to protect, report authors say. Exactly. You need to report it. Share awareness. Share this video. Share your own video. Share the stories. And we're going to start doing stories. As of right now, we're going to start doing stories on people who have been murdered, who are transgender, gay. We're going to start doing these. We're going to start protecting our people. And we're going to start reporting on it and making it known. Almost 4,000 people. In the UK, transphobic hate crimes reports have quadrupled over the past 5 years. And in the U.S., the Human Rights Campaign has seen the most violent year against people they've ever recorded, against trans people that they've ever recorded. Trans women are the most vulnerable, accounting for 98% of the murders. Why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't they reporting on this? They might do a little 30-second report about it on the news, but that's it. You don't see a full report every day. There should be reports every single day about protecting our communities. Within the figures this year, it's clear that within the diverse array of different gender diverse and transgender people all over the world, some are more vulnerable than others. Since the Trans Murder Monitoring Project began in 2008, 62% of the deaths have been in the sex workers community. In Europe, of the 11 recorded murders this year, half of them were migrants, whilst in the U.S., 79% of those recorded as murdered by the TVT report were trans women of color. The overwhelming trend shows trans women are most vulnerable. 98% of those murdered this year were trans women of trans feminine people. The stories TVT have found over the years and across the world share the horrifying details of the homicide, hanging, and even the lynching of trans and gender diverse people. Hanging, stigma, and discrimination, and a wide range of violence overlaps the other axes of oppression prevalent in society, such as racism, sexism, and anti-sex worker sentiment and discrimination. And the numbers have went up, but these people have this excuse that, oh, because she's a sex worker, she deserved it. Nobody deserves it. Who the fuck do you think you are for hurting anyone, first off? And then they say, well, she was a sex worker. You were the one out looking for a sex worker. How are you any better? That's what always gets me with people, is they'll judge the sex worker, but they don't judge the person that's looking for the sex worker, who's looking for the sex. Especially the ones that have the spouses at home waiting on them. Okay, as of now, we're going to start doing stories on the transgender community, the murders of the transgender and gay communities, and we're going to start sharing awareness. We're going to step our game up. We're going to start calling it out and making it known. When this person attacked me online yesterday because they thought I was trans, it woke me up to a realization that the hate that the trans and the gay communities get is so vile. It's so disgusting. It's so uncalled for. There are people who have YouTube channels, huge YouTube channels, platforms like the Transformed Wife and these Christian React channels, who will say, a man can't do a mother's job. A man can't be a mother. Let me tell you something. Some of the best parents I know are gay fathers or transgender parents, and their children have the best life. Most straight people that I know, and I'm not saying all my straight friends, but I'm saying at least 4 of the straight friends that I have are either in rehab, in jail, don't have their kids, or gave their kids up because, or DSS took them, DSS Social Services took their kids because they were abusing them or they were on drugs, and then we weren't friends anymore because of the situation. But my point being, for someone to sit here and say that a gay man or gay woman can't be a parent is fucking ridiculous. I know plenty, and they are the best parents. Share your stories in my comments. Please feel free. And we won't tolerate hate. And we will start calling these YouTube channels out, like the Transform Wife, that are homophobic. We will start calling them out. We're not going to send hate. We never send hate. We don't bully. But we'll address the situation, and we will call them out for being homophobic. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching.